Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the August 28th meeting of the Berea Board of Education. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Chapman?
Chapman, here.
Mrs. Ferris?
Ferris, here.
Mr. Dockman?
Dockman, here.
Mr. Duke?
Duke, here.
Mr. Postal?
I see.
Unmute himself.
Postal here.
Ah, there we go.
Hey, Neil.
Okay, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To
to
the
the flag of the United States of America,
and
To the republic
for which it stands,
one nation,
under
under
God,
God, indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty
justice
and
for all.
justice for all. Okay, we had given notice that anyone that wanted to participate in public participation could fill out a form and come to the board office. And Mr. Draves, is anyone here?
Just Mr. Ruggiero, but he doesn't want to talk, so we're good.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so then we move on to C1. It's recommended the Board of Education approve the memorandum of understanding with OPSI Locals 213 and 473 and the Berea Board of Education for the purpose of establishing a furlough program for non-teaching employees as shown in the exhibits.
So moved. Ferris.
Second, Postal.
So I think Jill and I are going to tag team this. I think she's going to walk through the MOU and then I'll give some information and allow you guys to ask some questions.
Okay, I'll start just to walk through the MOUs. OPSI Local 213 represents our administrative assistants, our office assistants, our intervention assistants, or intervention associates, our cafeteria employees, our student monitors, and our regular education aides. OPSI Local 473 represents our transportation department. That's why there's two separate MOUs on here for those groups. If we walk down through the MOU, basically what we're doing today with these MOUs is establishing a furlough program. In our agreements, our union agreements, there is no language to establish a furlough program. There is reduction in force language, but no language to establish the furlough program. So that's what these memorandums of understanding are before you this morning, is to establish the program. If we walk down through these, basically number one is basically stating, the program's going to start effective August 31st, which is Monday. Number two, under the furlough program, by reducing hours for employees or furloughing employees entirely, they will maintain their health insurance benefits as outlined in the current union agreement. Number three, basically says, in addition to partial furloughs, maybe a number of employees may be completely furloughed. And if they are completely furloughed, they will retain their health insurance benefits. Number four walks us through how we are instituting the program. Basically, we are going by classification. If we are keeping employees, the most senior employees within that classification or in whole will keep hours. If not, they will be 100% completely furloughed. Basically, this also gives us the right, when we call the employees back or when we come back to school, those employees will come back to their current positions. Tracy will go into that in a little bit more detail. RIF versus furlough, just a little bit more detail in a minute. Furlough, number five, furloughed employees may, because it's a reduction of hours, if they are getting reduced hours, may apply for unemployment. We will walk the employees through how to do that. The affected employees will be notified via email. We wanted to put that in there versus regular mail because the mail's so slow. We wanted to get that out there immediately, so we just wanted to put that in there that, check your email, look for it through electronic communication. Number seven, basically the board will do whatever it can to retain as many employees as we can. We may ask them to do, things that might be a little bit out of their job classification, but for the most part, they will be working within their classification. And then basically the rest of the MOU is the regular language that we are agreeing to this during this time of pandemic. Number 9, we are extending this MOU through June 30th. And the reason it's through June 30th and not November 2nd is if we find ourselves in a situation where we come back and then we have to go out again, we wanted some flexibility to not have to pass another MOU or not have to reconvene to do this again. So that's why we took it through June 30th, just for the school year, just in case we come in and go out again. And that's basically, number 10 says we'll bring them back as soon as we can. As soon as possible, all employees will be back if we're back in session. Tracy, if you want to follow up on some specifics.
Yeah, just a couple things. So the one, obviously the MOU for the bus drivers, and that's why we separated, because with the bus drivers, the one thing that was different is their bid process. So we made sure that we talked about, we actually have to on, Corky's already posted the routes as if we have to do this in the way that they have to bid on their routes. So she actually had to post their routes this week. They will have to bid on their routes starting on Monday as if we were coming back to school normal. After that bid process is done, then everyone who may not be coming back, who's 100% or 50% furloughed, they need to know what their hours would be to start the year in order to apply for unemployment benefits. And then once they are ready to go, then with the school year runs, then they'll rebid those runs. And then anytime we're ready to come back to school, then Corky will redo the routes and they'll have to bid another time. So that's the difference with with transportation. Other than that, everything else was the same. So just some of the additional information. And again, just to clarify the process, when the board met on Monday night, we had shared, what the program was going to be. There was a furlough program. We did not have the details because of a couple things. One, the unions had to have 48 hours to actually see the MOUs and to be able to review them, meet with union leadership, ask questions, anything that they needed to do. So that's just in their language, that is required. So Tuesday, Wednesday, they had the time to do that. Yesterday, then, they did vote. And I got the results of those votes, the last OPSI group around 2:00. And then that's when we actually made all of the information and had the agenda alive to you. I think you had noticed, if you see by the results of the vote, it was overwhelmingly passed by both OPSI groups. And I also then the information I had shared with you on Monday was that the furlough would look like this. There would be some people who came back at 100% of their hours. Some people would come back at 50%. We knew that some people were going to come back at 80%. And then we knew that there were going to be also people who would not get any of their hours. We did not have the details and specifics of that. Again, I met with and talked with both union leaders yesterday after the vote. We had kind of a draft list of what that would look like. But, one of the things that we had shared, we know that they had asked us not to share that information, even with the union leadership until after the vote, because they didn't want in any way that information to get out to be shared to sway anyone's vote in any way. So right now at this point in time, and again, these are estimated numbers because they could change. Some of the reasons why they changed, for example, in transportation, we have about 22 routes that we're going to run. And we would need 22 bus drivers. What we have done is we've made that 44. We thought it was important that our bus drivers stay up and running. A lot of them haven't even driven a bus since March. We felt it was really important for them to keep their skills. So we're actually going to have 44 bus drivers and they'll run at 50. They're going to be furloughed at 50% of their hours. That number could change. We are in the process of Lori Bobencheck and the special ed department. They're working on finalizing all of the numbers for some of our most at-risk kids that would need to come in to meet, and then that could increase our route. So again, any of the numbers I give you today are just rough, but this is the information that we have put out to both of the unions. So about 106 of our staff will return to work at 100% of their hours. All of our custodians, all of our maintenance, like I said, about 44 bus drivers. We've got some instructional assistants, some of our 12-month secretaries, our 10-month office assistants. We have about 62 of our staff members who will return to work at 50% of their hours. We have 6 staff members, and that I will just tell you that's in our food service. We will have 6 of them return at 80% of their hours. And then I put a number of 171 of our staff will be furloughed at 100%. That number, though, what I didn't do is because we have some classified staff that work in 2 different roles, right? We have some that are in food service, but then some that also do extended care. So just as the rough numbers, they probably have been counted twice. So I'm guessing that number's probably closer to 140-ish. But I counted it up, just that's the number of positions. It's 171 then that they would be furloughed at 100% of their hours. Things that we talked about, why a furlough versus a RIF. And again, we, in our discussions, implemented the furlough because it gave us the most flexibility in bringing our staff back quickly. That's one of the things that we talk about, if and when we bring staff back. If we would have RIF'd, that is a process. If we RIF, positions have to be reposted. We have to interview. People could get a certain position, another position comes open, and then we'd have to interview again. That could be a lengthy process. By a furlough, we're able to bring people back quickly. And that was really, really important to us. So we wanted to make sure, the other thing is that we were able to give our staff medical benefits. So again, all members are able to retain their benefits. Anyone who's eligible for unemployment are able to apply for unemployment. Again, we are implementing the Shared Works Ohio program. So anybody who's furloughed anywhere from 10 to 50%. Jill's already started that application process with Shared Works Ohio, where they will, and Jill, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, they reimburse us part of the unemployment versus anyone who's furloughed at 100%, then the district is responsible for that full, our full share of unemployment. Correct, Jill?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And again, if we went the route of a RIF, obviously our members would not be eligible for benefits. Again, they would still be eligible for unemployment, but the district would pay the full share on all employees. If they RIF, then that's the whole bumping process. Again, an example in that is that we maintain classified staff versus in their classification. So, for example, we are bringing some intervention associates back, and those are our staff that work directly with students. Had we not done a furlough and we did a straight RIF, for example, we're not bringing back our 9-month office assistants. Therefore, our office assistants would have the right to bump down into an intervention associate position. And we feel that there's a real difference between those positions, and we felt it was important that our staff that already works with our students continues to work with our students. So furlough allowed us to do that, where a RIF would not have allowed us to do that. And again, a RIF, we can't call people back quickly. I think that's pretty much it on the difference between those. So any questions that the board has?
I have a question.
Okay.
The reasoning to start this Monday versus the first day of remote learning is?
Well, a couple of things. So one, we would have to bring staff back, and we would be bringing them back for a week. And again, one of the things is that when we went through the list and decided who to bring back and who not to bring back, it was really based on the amount of work we had for people to do. So if we brought all that staff back next week, we really don't have work for people to do right now. So that was one of the big reasons. Another thing is we're even starting this today. We know that on that list, there could be people who have a reason to not be able to come back. For example, if there's a medical, right? So now let's say we have a bus driver who now is interacting with kids. They may have a medical reason as to why they can't come back. So we need that turnaround time also, so that, we've asked them already, reach out to Vince. If you know you're one of those 44 and you've got a reason why you can't come back, we now need to start that process, because then we need to work out what we're doing with that staff member. And then we're going to have to go to the next staff member in line based on seniority and get that process going. So we really need a little bit of time to do that so that we are ready to go on the 8th.
Okay.
There's a
Are they going to miss orientation, or is there orientation that they need that if they get called back, they would miss if they get, like a furloughed on Monday?
With what orientation? Just what we do to come back?
Just preschool, before school starts, any type of development that there's nothing that they need to attend before the 9th if they get furloughed on Monday.
Go ahead, Jill.
I believe that's another reason why the furlough works better for us, because if we need to, we know we're coming back, we can mobilize them sooner to do some of the training because all staff's going to have to be trained in COVID procedures.
Right.
So yes, that's another reason that the furlough works a lot better than the RIF, is we can mobilize them possibly a week sooner to get any of that necessary training in that might need to occur.
It does give us time, Steve, because, with next week with the staff being, Monday a work day and then those next 4 days being PD days without kids yet, it does give us that time that we need next week also to do anything that we haven't had done with a staff member yet.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
A few questions, and I'll just build upon the professional development discussion, training discussion here. Does it not make sense to allow all the staff to go through whatever training is planned for next week, development that's planned for next week, make them go through that together versus trying to break that up? It seems like it will be more efficient if we have 171 or so staff potentially not going through certain amounts of training and development activities next week that others would have. Additionally, regarding furlough programs, I think, what I haven't seen, and I want to make sure that we have some discussion on this, is what about things like, the no work clauses? We have a kickoff scheduled for September 4th. My interpretation, and I'm not a lawyer or an HR professional, but we furlough somebody on the 31st, they can't participate September 4th. That would violate a no work clause of a furlough program. So it just kind of makes sense to me that, yes, we can start a furlough program 8/31, but, plan through these next couple weeks and then let some of these things play out, have them help get ready. I have a hard time understanding how, in a remote environment, an instructional assistant might be furloughed, that they wouldn't be able to help teachers in an area of remote environment and where kids have to do independent studies and things like that. I think we want to maximize the resources to the kids there. I know we're trying to predict what's going on, but I really am concerned about us under predicting, what work might be available. I know, and I'm all for a furlough program. I want to make that clear. I am all for a furlough program ever since this conversation started. I think everybody knows that I preferred furlough program versus RIF program, but I think there's just some gaps here that I haven't heard that I'm worrying if we're rushing to a furlough program to make sure we don't pay people. And that's a perception that honestly is out there. I'd like to hear maybe some comments about why we would not want to have staff fully available for skill, enhancement, versus breaking it up. I think doing things, bus drivers, I heard we're going to train 44 bus drivers because they haven't driven 40 since March. But what about the others? So why not get them all trained at the same time? So that's just,
yeah.
Points I'd like to make there. Maybe hear some comments on that.
Well, so example, just what you're talking about, bus drivers. We're not actually training the bus drivers. We're just getting them back so that they're able to drive. And remember, we talked about, so something that you just said too, Jeff, about, are we under predicting? We're predicting based on the information that we have. And we talked with, we met with the unions and talked about what could people do. And even after that, I mean, the 106 that we're bringing back 100% of the time, the 100% of the time that is based on the feedback and information that we got. So with what we know that is available, there really isn't a ton. When we talk about the training, let me say too, remember that we're going to have that time period before, if and when we bring kids back, that we will be able to bring them in before kids are here. So it's not like, November 3rd, kids start, and we bring the rest of our staff back on November 3rd. We will have that transition period, because one of the things that we also said to our the BFT was that we would allow for another work day or so prior to the kids coming back. So that still does give us time to do the training that we need to do. The training, we don't really have training right now for our classified staff. It's really the teacher PD next week. It's not our classified staff PD. And the only thing that we're going to have to really do is just to review our COVID procedures. And if our kids come back, we're going to be doing that with our entire staff. That's not, like right now, we're not talking about COVID procedures for kids. We'll do that before kids come back, so that all of our staff is up and they're ready. And if we're over predicting or under predicting, I think is what you said, right now, the furlough allows us to bring people back if we need them. So again, we've predicted as best we can right now, and that's why we're bringing so many staff back at either 100% or 50 or 80%. We've predicted as best we can right now, but it also gives us the opportunity, if we miss the target, we're able to bring staff back, and we're able to bring them back quicker. And our convocation on Friday, again, it is virtual. If people choose to participate, that have been furloughed, they're able to do that, or not.
Yes, but regarding that, what about, I know furlough programs have things like no work rules, as in, most furlough programs, sometimes their email access is shut off. And I think we've communicated that we're going to, have emails here being our primary form of communication. So I don't want us to set us up into a legal claims battle here as well, where, we're furloughing people 100% of the time and expecting them to still participate in certain things, or giving them options to participate but not be paid, where others that would participate would be paid. Because I think that's just, not the point of a furlough program there. So, I'm not sure if we've thought through or really to the whole no work rule properly here, so I want to make sure that we're covered that way.
Jeff, if I may step in here, under the Share Works Ohio program, there is encouragement that they can go seek other employment. They just have to report those hours to unemployment so the benefits can be calculated accordingly. If they earn money from somewhere else, or even earn money from us, say they're a ticket taker and they're furloughed, those hours need to be reported to unemployment, or that pay needs to be reported to unemployment, so the benefits can be calculated accordingly. That's under the Share Works Ohio program. Under the regular unemployment program, which some of the employees will go through, that is also a clause that, you have to report that outside. And I believe under regular unemployment, they encourage people to seek other employment, or they have to prove that they've been trying to seek other employment.
And Jeff,
we're talking two different things.
Yeah.
The no work rule is, if an employee is furloughed, they cannot work for the company or organization that furloughed them. So when you look up no work rule, they can't be answering emails, from the district, not even 5 minutes. That is work. That's the same as when you're on disability. If, when people are on disability, they're supposed to turn in their computers, accounts are going to be shut down because they're not supposed to be performing work for that organization. So I want to make sure we don't set ourselves up and setting up a double standard here. Unemployment is different. They're allowed to seek other employment. The no work rule applies to the organization that furloughed the employee there too.
So I think
Jeff, I just want to make sure our personnel department has that covered and communicates that properly to staff before they furlough staff.
So I think there might be some confusion. We're not asking furloughed staff to work. I mean, we're furloughing them. If we had work for them, we would be employing them at least at 10%. And so we're not asking them to work. And I think maybe the email comment when Jill's talking about the MOU and the email, that is just in their contract right now, everything has to be done by mail. And so what we were saying, any notification of furlough or return to work would go through email and would not go through mail. So we're not asking furloughed staff to do any work.
Are the employees still have access to their email, and are they still considered employees?
Yes, they have access to their emails.
Okay. And so they will continue to receive any district updates, and there's no conflict with that. I think that's what Jeff is getting at, is that we don't want to sever that relationship, a hard stop with those employees. If they're furloughed, I think he's looking for a little bit of reassurance, if I may, Jeff, that they're still part of they're still part of the district and will still be actively employed and in communication with.
We're not planning on turning off any email. Again, it's for us, it's easier. Again, if staff choose to read their email, they can. The good thing about that is if we don't, as long as we don't turn off their email, anything that we're sending out district wide that would be important for them to know, if and when they're coming back, they would still have access to all that email. If we turn that off, they have no access to that. So we're not planning on turning off their email, but we're not asking them to do the work either. I think most of them will willingly still try to be actively engaged in some way, because I know they're all eager and they want to come back and they want to be with the kids, but we're not asking them to do that.
Tracy, how much notice will they have when it's time for them to come back?
So that's a great question. I had a conversation with the union leadership about that the other day, and what we said was, I can't give like a hard, 2 days, you're going to have 2 days, you're going to have a week. I said, because, again, something could turn on a dime. We could say, we missed the boat on this. But we said we would give them ample time. Somebody said, well, what if an employee, we say, hey, we need you back on next Tuesday. And they say, and we would say Tuesday, which should be sufficient time. They say, well, I have a doctor's appointment. We say, okay, you have sick leave, take your doctor's appointment, report to work whenever you're supposed to report. So we said, we will do our very best to give them as much forewarning as possible to get them back. And with the understanding that we have to consider that that they do need a little bit of time in order to be able to come back.
And then they'll get that COVID training when they come back.
Yep.
Before they start.
I know Mr. Draves has already put out, and so they've already received this information about, again, our COVID training is really our COVID training for when our kids come back, and we're fully back in, and we'll do that for all staff. So no one will have that. The information that we have right now is basically to our staff, when you're in the building, these are the protocols that you have to follow. So they've already gotten, and that was just an email. Wear your mask. If you're in a group meeting, wear your mask. Wipe your surfaces down often. Custodial staff will be in the building to wipe things down. So Mike has already given all staff the directive on what they're supposed to do while it's just staff in the building.
Hey, Jill, I have a question for Jill.
Sure.
You said, I think I'm just trying to clarify, furloughed workers can be ticket takers?
Yes, they can, because that's a different job classification or it's a different thing altogether.
Okay.
If they are ticket takers, we just have to report those earnings to unemployment again, so the benefits can be calculated accordingly.
Okay.
Yep.
So they may not want to do that if they're furloughed due
Right.
to rules about how much you make.
Right.
And then we'll go off the list and the next ticket taker, if we need to replace, we have people that
Yep.
we've approved that can replace them.
Yes. Yep.
Are we
Tracy,
using less tonight due to the situation?
Are we
Or
using?
less or more ticket takers?
It'll probably be less, Steve. They did get the home team program in order. So it's all going to be done through a QR code.
Yeah.
QR
Yeah.
code.
Okay.
To the extent possible. I think they're still going to sell tickets tonight, but moving forward, Hometown's up and running. We've already had it's already been working properly. But moving forward after tonight, everything should go through Hometown for the electronic ticketing.
Okay. What's our max tonight, by the way? Can I ask?
I want to say 700-ish. I don't know that exact number, Steve, but I don't know why that sticks in my mind. Well, I'm thinking home. Do you know what it is, Mike?
Well, it's 15% is what the thing is. It's every kid, 2 tickets for every child, so.
Okay.
Tracy, I have a question. So as a teacher, I usually have X number of things I need to do at the beginning of the year, like for public school works. And then I have a due date, and I imagine classified employees have those too. If those due dates fall during the time that staff is furloughed, are they still expected to complete that? Or are they going to have grace period after that to do that?
They'll have a grace period after that because we want that done prior to them having contact with kids. So again, we'll do the same thing. We'll make sure that they know that they got those back in July, Mike. I think they got them back in July.
We had, July 15th, they went out to everybody, but the due date was 9/30, and we'll push that back for our classified staff as needed. Yep.
Okay.
They'll just that's a requirement. They're going to have it done, soon after they're back or, when they're back with kids. So that would be, give them some time there to finish those.
Okay, are there any other questions?
Yeah, I've got a question regarding the benefits. I was provided some information, that caused me into a research last night, and I'm sure it was provided to staff as well. And it's regarding, I think, number 2 in the MOU there, where it says employees will still be responsible for the regular premium contribution amounts. And I believe there's in a high revised code. I think it's chapter 124. Let me see what it is. 123-1-41 regarding furloughs, and where it states that the organization providing the furlough shall cover the employee's health insurance during the time of the furlough, and then a repayment plan established upon return of the employee to employment. Are we doing that for our employees in accordance with the high revised code? Are we aware of that?
I don't think that code, again, so we vetted all of this through our attorney. And I think what you're referencing, Jeff, is a furlough program that furlough program is not a furlough program that's offered to teachers. That's why we actually had to do a furlough, because there is no such thing as a furlough offered to our employees. So I don't think, again, this MOU covers that. I don't think, I'm just going to tell you, it doesn't apply, because that's why we had to do this MOU to get a furlough, because that language does not apply to our staff.
Well, it may not be applicable to our staff from a high revised code perspective, but it's also it's a very good thing to consider, providing that benefit to our staff that is 100% furlough, that, to that maybe lessen the pain during this time, we offer, a similar program where we can cover their insurance premium at that time, and then they set up a repayment program there. So it's something I think, if we really truly want to say that, we negotiate in a win-win fashion, this might be what I would consider a win-win for those employees being furloughed, is that, they're not getting a double whammy, that, the district steps up the plate and helps them out a little bit during this process, and then they repay it back accordingly. So something to consider that I think the administration should consider as a benefit to the 170 plus that are being furloughed, at 100% there.
Yeah, and again, Jeff, I just think I would say, and again, the MOU that was presented to them, this was very favorable for them, and that this is what they have accepted versus a RIF where they would have not received any benefits at all. And I do think it is for us and for them. I have heard a lot that this has been a win-win for them, that our classified staff is very appreciative of the fact that that we went this route. And they've known, and that was part of the explanation and conversation that their union leadership had with them, that their field rep, the OPC field rep, had with them, that they would still be responsible for their share of their benefits. And we've heard some really good feedback from that, and feel that this was a fair offer to all of them.
I would like to say that, when we first started having this conversation a few weeks ago, the fact that we have the opportunity that we have to offer this program was a relief, because we know we can't operate as we have in the past with the situation being what it is. This seemed to be a way to soften the impact that some of our staff would feel. And I know that the administration, that they were really looking for a way to be able to help the staff out that would be impacted by this, and the healthcare being such an important part of everybody's everyday life. It's just losing health insurance is a concerning and worrisome event. The fact that there was a lot of thought put into this and a lot of concern by the administration says a lot to me about the people that we have in place, and the work that was done with the unions in such a short amount of time, and to have there be such a high percentage of passage, is significant passage, was very reassuring to me. I support this. I know there are questions, and thank you, Jeff, for bringing all those questions forward. I trust that the lawyers, along with the unions, along with the administration, have looked at this from all angles, and this is, to me, this is a positive thing. And I take comfort in knowing that our people are going to be able to come back quickly and get back to what they do, which is working with the kids and working in education.
Okay,
So yeah, I have one more question.
Okay.
So speaking of coming back, do we have a metric, Tracy, for what we're going to use to decide when to come back, or are we just going to rely on the Board of Health to give us the go-ahead?
Again, I think, I don't know if that's a conversation for right now with talking about this, but again, I think I updated you in my last update as far as the things that we're looking at, and I think that's a conversation we can have at another time.
Okay.
I just don't think right now is the time that for us to have that conversation. I can, at the next meeting, we can have that conversation if you'd like. And I'll provide some more information today. And then we can have that conversation later. I'm okay with having the conversation. I just don't think it's right now to have it.
That's fine. Our next meeting is
September 8th.
The 8th.
That's fine.
So I'll have some stuff to bring to that meeting and provide you guys with some things before that too. So
Okay.
Okay, any other questions?
I have one final comment here, and then I'll stop here. My final comment is I want to make it clear that I am in support of a furlough program. I have been in support of a furlough program since we've started these tough conversations over the past several weeks. However, there's still a couple of points in the way that the MOU was put together and presented, and I think that we could have done better at it. I know that, Corey, I agree. There was a lot of work done on that, but I think we could have had a better win-win situation. I think we might be very quick to pull a trigger on something in this day and age. And I am in support of the program, but I'm not in support of a couple of the points, in the current MOU or within the plans in the administration to pull a trigger right after the board meeting. It's my understanding that some people have already been told that they're going to be furloughed. I wish that, we slowed the roll on this whole situation. That's my final comment there.
So I do want to address that though, Jeff, so that people are aware and that we're not trying to pull one over, is that we did send out information to people last night to let them know where they stood. Again, because one, our classified staff wanted to know it. They were very eager. We let them know and obviously told them that any final decision was contingent upon the board. We treated this as a RIF that prior to board approval that people would know. So we did send out last night after 5 o'clock, after I heard back from Anna that we were definitely going to have the board meeting this morning. We did let staff know, again, we've got planning to do. There's still things that have to happen after staff were notified. So they did have they did get their notification of where things would fall, but they also knew that any of this was contingent upon board approval today. And again, that's how we had those conversations with the union leadership. They felt that that was important, that their members are anxious. They're really anxious and they really wanted to know how they're going to have to move forward. And so we're trying to be very respectful of that and getting that information to them as soon as possible.
And I understand that. I just think that we could have still provided that information and not pulled the trigger on furloughs coming Monday. We could still provided that, moved it out a week, moved it out 2 weeks so we can see how these next couple of weeks, how startup of the school year starts. Maybe we'll find out there's a lot more work that's needed. That's my opinion. That's my opinion.
Okay, I think we're ready for a roll call, Jill.
Mrs. Ferris.
Ferris, yes.
Mr. Postal.
Postal, yes.
Mrs. Chapman.
Chapman, yes.
Mr. Dockman.
Document, yes.
Mr. Duke.
Duke, no.
Okay, can we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Ferris.
Document, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend,
Good day.
and we'll see each other again soon. Bye.